Why Nation Fail by Acemoglu and Robinson. Chapter 5 I've seen the future, and it works, growth under extractive institutions. The authors explain what Stalin, King Shyaam, the Neolithic Revolution, and the Maya city-states all had in common, and how this explains why China's current economic growth cannot last. The authors continue with, I've seen the future, and it works, growth under extractive institutions. Institutional differences and economic growth. Extractive institutions create wealth for extraction, while inclusive institutions stimulate economic activity. Growth under extractive institutions requires technological change, not sustained growth. The Soviet Union's economic trajectory. The Soviet Union's economic trajectory illustrates how state authority and incentives can drive rapid economic growth under extractive institutions. The Soviet regime aimed to remove causes of evils, setting up a dictatorship to maintain economic democracy first and political democracy last. The Soviet Union's industrialization. Joseph Stalin's drive to industrialize the Soviet Union led to a rapid industrialization. The first five-year plan, written by Gosplan, ran between 1928 and 1933. The process led to a sharp fall in production, leading to starvation and death. Soviet Union's economic growth and technological change. The Soviet Union's rapid growth was due to the efficient use of resources, facilitated by market-based decision-making and resource allocation. The Soviet Union's rapid economic growth attracted Westerners, but faced a roadblock with lack of innovation and poor economic incentives. Stalin's decision-making and population estimation. Stalin's decision-making process was based on the 1937 Soviet census, which revealed a population of about 162 million, below the anticipated 180 million. Incentives to work hard. Stalin recognized the lack of incentives in the Soviet economy, leading to the introduction of a bonus system. Output targets were usually based on previous production levels, creating an incentive not to expand output. The perverse incentives of central planning and the Soviet Union. Central planning failed to replace Adam Smith's concept of the invisible hand of the market. Soviet leaders acted as if they were due to technical problems, moving away from paying bonuses based on output targets to allowing firms to set aside portions of profits to pay bonuses. Innovation bonuses and productivity. The Soviet Union introduced explicit innovation bonuses in 1946, but the rewards were small and unrelated to the value of the new technology. Inherent problems of the system. As long as political authority rested with the Communist Party, it was impossible to fundamentally change the basic incentives people faced. The limitations of extractive institutions in the Soviet Union. Extractive growth was achieved through government command, not through technical mistakes in bonus schemes. Sustained economic growth required individuals to use their talents and ideas, which was not possible with a Soviet-style economic system. The Bolsheviks built a powerful centralized state and used it to allocate resources towards industry, leading to rapid growth under extractive institutions. The Kasai River and the Lele people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Kasai River divides the Democratic Republic of Congo into two groups, the Lele people and the Bushong tribes. The Lele tribes produced for subsistence, while the Bushong practiced a sophisticated form of mixed farming. The differences in production, agricultural technology, and law and order were not due to geography, ignorance, or culture, but rather cultural aversion to technology or ignorance. Political and economic differences in the Bushong and Lele kingdoms. The Bushong and Lele lands had different political institutions due to different political structures. The political revolution led to an economic revolution in Cuba, reorganizing agriculture and adopting new technologies. The introduction of higher yield crops from the Americas and a mixed farming cycle increased food production per capita. The age of marriage was lowered to 20, bringing men into the agricultural labor force at a younger age. King Shyaam and his supporters aimed to extract taxes and wealth from the Cuba, who had to produce a surplus above their consumption. The Bushong had a political revolution, while the Lele could not have had their own King Shyaam. The long summer, the evolution of human society. The Ice Age and climate change led to an increase in human populations and the availability of wild plants and foods. The Neolithic Revolution marked the transition to sedentary life, farming, and herding. Farming involved the domestication of plant and animal species, with active intervention in their life cycles to make them more useful to humans. The Natufian culture was sedentary before they started domesticating plants or animals. The emergence of sedentary life may have been preceded by an institutional innovation concentrating power in the hands of a group that would become the political elite. Neolithic evolution and transition to sedentary life. Political elites likely led to the transition to sedentary life and farming. The transition to farming led to increased agricultural productivity and population expansion. The success of this transition was not determined by the availability of plant and animal species but by the institutional, social, and political innovations that allowed sedentary life and farming to emerge. Differences in institutions spread to some places but not to others, as seen in Europe where farming spread from the Middle East around 6500 BC. The unstable extraction, a study of Maya civilization and culture. Farming emerged independently globally, including modern Mexico, where societies established states and settlements. Maya city-states in southern Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and western Honduras built a sophisticated civilization under their own extractive institutions. The Maya experience exemplifies the potential for growth under extractive institutions but also the political instability that leads to the collapse of society and state. The Maya cities first developed around 500 BC, but eventually failed in the 1st century AD. The Maya developed a writing system, inscriptions, and a sophisticated calendar for recording dates known as the long count. The Maya were skilled builders who independently invented cement. The number of dated monuments in Maya cities increased from around AD 500 to 0 by the 10th century. The altar Q monument in Copan records the names of all the kings, starting from the founder of the dynasty Kanichiax or King Green Sun First Quetzalcoatl. Archaeological evidence of Copan's rise and fall. Archaeologists Ankarin Fredher, Nancy Gonlin, and David Webster used obsidian hydration to map the rise and fall of Copan over 850 years, from AD 400 to AD 1250. The population peak was AD 800, followed by a decline to around 15,000 people by AD 900, and a return to 800 years by AD 1200. Economic development of the Maya classical era. The new political institutions led to a significant increase in economic prosperity, much of which was then extracted by the new elite based around the Kauhulaja. Aja means lord or ruler and Kauhulaja means divine lord. By around AD 300, there was little further technological change, with evidence of improved irrigation and water management techniques but no further innovation in building and artistic techniques. The wealth created by the extractive institutions led to constant warfare, which worsened over time. Maya city patterns and overthrow of political model. Archaeologists Nikolai Grube and Simon Martin reconstruct the patterns of contact between major Maya cities. The Maya collapse coincided with the overthrow of the political model based on the Kauhulaja. Aja means lord or ruler and Kauhulaja means divine lord. Despite the overthrow of the Kauhulaja and elites, the elite remained in some places, erecting new buildings for at least 200 years before disappearing. The overthrow of the Kauhulaja and elites is not definitively determined, but it likely occurred in the context of intense intercity warfare. Extractive institutions and their limitations. Extractive institutions distribute limited prosperity to a small elite. Political centralization is necessary for growth. State or elite control often incentives investment and wealth generation. Examples include Caribbean plantation economies and the Soviet Union. Extractive institutions often lead to political centralization, resulting in the Cuba Kingdom and Neolithic Revolution. Growth generated by extractive institutions is not sustainable and only generates limited technological progress. Internal logic of extractive institutions leads to infighting and instability, often resulting in law and order breakdown. Despite limitations, growth under extractive institutions can appear spectacular. Thank you.